Hi guys, ChynnaMai here, and today I want to talk to you about something that is very personal to me. So anybody who follows me on social media or knows me personally knows that, I'm 27, I started out doing makeup, and I'm social media savvy, if nothing else. A lot of people know that I have two kids. One is 6 and one is 2, but a lot of people don't know that my oldest son was diagnosed with high functioning autism. As he gets older and I kind of mature and progress, a little bit more, I am more comfortable with talking about it. I kind of just want to paint a picture about what experience of having a child with autism has been like thus far. And what made me get him checked, what made me even look, go down that avenue of trying to find out if he was autistic. And I guess a little bit of how it is for me being suffering from PTSD and depression and trying to manage and raise, 2 kids and one being autistic. Here goes. So, what made me even think about autism, or if you hear noise, the neighbors around here, they real cutthroat and ratchet, so you might hear all types of whatever. But what made me even think about autism or even question autism is the fact that I have an older brother who is autistic, and he is verbal, but not, I don't know what the term is for that. Like, some autistic children are nonverbal. He can speak, but he can't carry on a conversation. Like, he's low functioning, I guess that would be the correct term. If it's not the correct term, then educate me, because I'm not sure. I only, can really like speak specifically about my child, because that's, what I research and what I know the most about. But anyway, so being around my younger brother, a few times growing up and seeing, his behavior and things, but not knowing, I had no idea what autism was then, but it gave me, in the future, it gave me a face to have an idea of what autism was, and from the moment that I had my son, I was a hypochondriac. That's just what that was for me. That's what childhood is, or that's what raising children is for me. It's every day, like, looking for different things to fix, to make better, to improve. Like, I think that as a parent, our job, or my job, is to guide my child on a journey, not to choose their journey for them, not to make them who I want them to be, but just to be there for love, support, and nurture, and to just kind of like be their partner, in life as they're growing and learning, stepping in during the troubling times and like being a source of comfort, and you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't look at raising children as a lot of parents do. So from the moment that he was in my stomach and I thought he was a girl, and you said that turned down, that's what you get for thinking. But from the moment that he was in my tummy, I just, always thought about what kind of mom I was going to be and what kind of examples I wanted to set and all of those things. So when he came out, I was excited, but very curious, because I feel like as a kid, I didn't get that from my parents. I didn't get that nurturing necessarily, and I didn't get the attention I wanted. So I was determined to pay attention. So that's what I did. I paid attention, and I remember taking him to the pediatrician because, like, it was a month into it, and I'm like, bro, you ain't smiling, my G. Like, what's up with that? Like, where the smiles? Because I noticed that other people's kids were smiling at them, and I was like, what? Like, I didn't know if he hated me. I didn't know because he would smile in his sleep, so I knew he was capable of smiling. I knew that was something that we could do. That was something that was, like, on the table, but he wouldn't smile at me, so I didn't know if, like, we just didn't bond, if he just wasn't feeling the kid, like I wasn't his cup of tea. So I remember taking him to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician was shady. I don't have this pediatrician anymore, but he was just like, because I kept bringing him in for different things that I felt like was a little off, like if he didn't smile, like the smiling thing, and it was some other little things that, like, you know, he was spitting up a lot, and he ended up having acid reflux. So everything, all my concerns were valid, but I was just constantly bringing him in. So the doctor the pediatrician was kind of like, what's really going on? Like, what are you really afraid of? Like, what's really, like, you know, what is something going on that you don't want to tell me about? Like, the way I saw it is, he was like, are you smoking crack and you worried that these are symptoms of a crack baby? Like, what's really going on? That's how he made me feel. It's like, you kind of overreacted, and it's making me feel like there's some underlying issues that, you know, is going on here. So that was my earliest memory of just being like, something is different. And I don't know if that's a factor of, you know, a child having autism, or I don't know. I just know that stood out to me. And as he got older, you know, in his baby stages, he ended up smiling and having a personality, and just like, you know, a normal kid. He was normal. 2, everything was normal, and, you know, nothing stood out to me. He loved to watch TV and Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse was damn near his preschool teacher. He learned to count, how to, you know, his letters and all those kind of things. So it wasn't really, I would say, until we got to the end of 2 where I started feeling like something just wasn't right. It first started with his speech. His speech just wasn't up to par with other kids his age. So I didn't think anything was wrong necessarily, more so than he just needed a speech therapist or something. Now, when I referenced my brother, I think that kind of was always in the back of my mind as far as him being autistic. Like, it's a possibility because I know autism exists. And when I was speaking to his pediatrician and he asked me about any underlying things, I mentioned to him I have an autistic brother. So when I was a kid, I thought nothing of autism. As I got older, you know, that's just a fear of different things you think about. Like, what if my child is autistic? What if he's gonna, you know, end up being like my brother? And that worried me. But when he was 2, I had no thought of that. All I thought was, gee, we might need to look into some speech therapy for him. Cause I'm just, like I said, I just wanted the best for him. So yeah, that's what I thought at 2. And as he started to get older, I started to notice more things like tantrums. Well, you know what? Tantrums were the last thing. I started to notice more things like emotions that were not in line with what was happening. So like, I would notice that we couldn't play games together. If we played a game together and he lost, he would have a meltdown. He would have like a complete and total breakdown of crying. Like, he could not get past the idea of losing. He was obsessed with the concept of losing. He was obsessed with the concept of winning, and he had to win. And this is at 3. Like, so if we're playing soccer outside and his dad goes to kick the ball, before he can kick the ball, it turns into like a complete meltdown of crying, and nobody can soothe him or calm him down. Nobody can console him. Another thing that I noticed was his sleeping pattern. He could stay, if I didn't force him like to go to bed, and even when I did force him to go to bed, we're still staying up to 11, 12 at night. If I'm not literally laying in the bed with him and like constantly like, you know, rubbing him for him to go to sleep, we up till 1, 2. And this is every night. Every night bedtime is a problem, to the point where I even started telling his daycare to not even give him a nap. When he takes his nap, it just recharges him to stay up later. So maybe if we don't give him a nap and we let him stay up all day, he'll go to sleep sooner. still had the same problem. Another thing that I noticed with him was lining up of the toys. I noticed that he was really, really good with blocks, you know, but that factored into the lining. He was lining them up and then building things with them. Another thing that I noticed is like parroting. So him memorizing a TV show, and you're talking to him and you're like, wow, he's so intelligent, he has so much to say, but he's literally just parroting back what he heard on the TV show. And then if you try to say anything to him that's outside of that, or anything that's different than what he's seeing, he can't have a conversation with you. And to a lot of people, they might say, well, he was only 3. So, I mean, what kind of conversation do you think you're gonna have with a 3-year-old? For me, I feel like I knew my child and I knew his intelligence level, and I just knew something was different. The fixation on things, like if he has a TV show that he likes, he wants to watch that every single day. We cannot break from the pattern or the habit. We cannot do anything differently. That was a big thing that I learned, or that I noticed with him, is there was no room for difference. There was no change. There was no, this is what we do every day. Oh, geez, that felt good. That was a big concern, was the repetition, the fixation on things. Sometimes I would look at my son and I would just see blank, just a blankness. He couldn't understand when he was upsetting me, or when people was upset, he didn't understand. You know how sometimes parents will fake cry, you know, in front of their kids, and just to see the reaction. There was no reaction. He didn't understand. So those are some things amongst, you know, everything that I noticed. And I just knew my child, and I just knew, like, he wasn't developing the way that I saw other kids develop. It wasn't about comparing him to other kids. It wasn't about him being like other kids. It was about the suffering that happens to children when other kids get it and they don't. When they want to make friends with other kids and they can't. They don't know how. They don't have the tools. So another thing that I noticed with him was social anxiety, going places. And I remember one time we went to the museum, and the science center. We were at the science center playing by the fossils, and a little girl walked up and he came to me and he whispered, "Mommy, what is she doing here?" And I explained to him, like, this is a museum, a public museum. It's a public place where, you know, anybody can come. And he just wasn't comfortable, you know, and this is more so going into like 4 years old. When I would try to take him to a park, he wasn't comfortable. He didn't want to play with anybody. He didn't want to leave my side. And then the minute that kids would leave the park and it was just us, then he would go play. He would get really nervous when going around people. Another thing that I noticed was him covering his ears when we would go to church or different places. When people would come up to him and speak to him, he didn't really know how to respond, so he would just kind of stare, you know, and they would kind of look like, is he okay? And I'd just be like, yeah, he's just, you know how kids are, but, you know, he just didn't feel comfortable. So that's something I noticed. I noticed him not wanting to play with kids at all. So all of those things prompted me to, you know, speak to his pediatrician about it. And the first couple times that I mentioned it to her, you know, it was very much like, this is how boys are, you know. Another thing that he would do is just like, he would just have so much energy that couldn't be calmed down, especially like, you know, with the whole bedtime concept. So it was just like, that's what boys do. Boys are energetic. You know, some kids just don't like people. Some kids just don't like XYZ. So, you know, I had to keep bringing it up and keep mentioning it and keep talking about it. And eventually she gave me a test that they give you, which is just a paper where they ask you a few questions. And based on my answers, she referred me to a neurologist because he was 4. So being 4, a lot of psychiatrists won't see you at 4. So we had to go to a neurologist. And within 5 seconds of taking him in, and the and the neurologist asking me questions, and I just let London be London. He was jumping all around on a man that he didn't know. He was just being overly friendly and loud and hanging from things. And, he talked to London, he asked him some questions, and we got a diagnosis of ADHD and high functioning autism. And I didn't even know necessarily that he gave that diagnosis until he gave me like a pamphlet, for resources and people to speak with and things of that nature. And I'm like, hold on, what? And all I can remember, for some reason, ADHD, I was okay with. It didn't really bother me. Hearing autism just took the wind out of me. I remember feeling so defeated. At the time, it was selfish. Like, everything I felt in that moment was selfish. There's no other way I could describe it. I was selfish. But in my mind, all of the hopes and the dreams and the ideas that I had for my son was out the window. I didn't know if he would be able to have a job, to have a wife, to find love, to go to prom, to play, on a sports team. I didn't know what autism meant. All I knew is that I had an idea of my brother who's not high functioning, and then here's my son who now is autistic. I remember crying. I remember asking God why. I remember being upset with God. I remember being upset with myself. I remember thinking, is it the food I'm giving him? Is it the vaccines? Was it the epidural when I got pregnant? What did I do? What did I do to cause this, to create this? I remember the doctor telling me that he had high functioning autism and he could normalize. So I then just became obsessed with the idea and the concept of maybe he can normalize. I didn't know how, I didn't know when. The doctor recommended different therapies that I immediately took him to, which was occupational, behavioral, and speech. I hit the ground running with it because I wanted him to normalize. My son is now 6, that was 2 years ago. From the 2 years up until now, I've seen a lot of change, a lot of improvement. A lot of improvement I think has a lot to do with just him getting older. And a lot of it has to do with the behavioral therapy that he goes to once a week. So he has a therapist that comes to his school and she sits with him and they talk and things like that. And that's really been amazing and super helpful for us. At first, I was selfish and I was sad and I was in denial. I was in denial for a very, very long time, like even up until recently, because it's just hard as a parent to acknowledge that your child might be different because you have so much that you want. A lot of it is just about you and what you want your child to do. So I had to kind of divorce the ideas in my mind. We tried to do sports, for example, and it was just a disaster. He didn't want to look at the teacher or the team. He kind of, for at least 30 minutes, kept his back turned from everybody. He didn't want to kick the ball. And, I made an executive decision to take him out of soccer because he just wasn't comfortable. And I had to say to myself, right now, it's not something that he wants to do or something that we can do. And that's okay. You want your kid to do sports. You want your kid to do the things that the other kids are doing. And sometimes I just have to tell myself that it's okay. He's an individual. And it's not my job to enforce what I want on him. It's my job to observe and pay attention to him and who he is as a person and kind of try to lead him in ways that can, help him to excel and make him fulfilled and happy. So I've had to learn to be a different kind of parent, and I'm thankful in that way. I'm thankful that my son is autistic because I've learned so much about life through him. He's such a beautiful person with such a sweet heart, and he doesn't understand, some of the hard truths of life. He doesn't always get those things. But I appreciate the innocence in him. I appreciate the youthfulness, the innocence. I appreciate the genuineness of his personality. And I'm just learning. I'm learning that it's not my way. It's not up to me to force things. It's up to me to just support him in any way I can. As my child is autistic, I am forced to be more understanding and more patient and more loving and more humble. And when I see other children, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the little things. I'm thankful that he is functioning. I'm thankful that he has a little brother, and in a lot of instances, little brothers and big brothers don't get along. But with my son's condition or his diagnosis and having a 2-year-old, they love each other so much. You know, sometimes I have to kind of explain to him that his brother can't do all the things that he can do, because he looks to his brother as an equal and a source of like joy. And, you know, because his brother is so young, you know, he doesn't know. He just goes along with whatever his big brother does. And it makes him feel awesome to be a big brother and to have someone look up to him. And I'm just thankful. It gets rough sometimes. Now we're in school. You know, there's kids and bullies and things like that. And we've experienced some situations with kids wanting to pick on him, and, you know, him not even understanding that he's being picked on, or, you know, kids giving him the cold shoulder or treating him a certain way. And that's difficult. I think that's difficult for any parent. If I feel a way about something, I definitely stay on top of the school. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, the relationship with me and my son and me being depressed, I feel like him having autism really helped me. And I know that sounds peculiar, because it would seem that it would be more stressful and it wouldn't help me. But it helps me because it makes me more thankful. It makes me more humble. It makes me get off my ass. You know, when you're depressed a lot, all you want to do is get in the bed and stay in the bed. All you want to do is just stay where you're at. You don't want to do anything. You lose interest in things. But my kids motivate me to be better, to get up, to get out the bed, because I want more for them financially. I want more opportunities. I want them to see different cultures. I can't spend their childhood in the bed. So it forces me, it's a motivation for me to get up and get out. They bring me so much joy. So I'm thankful to have a child that's autistic. I deal with depression because it really puts things into perspective for me, and it helps me sometimes to get out of myself and get out of those emotions, because I have other people to live for that need me more. And the idea that, you know, I don't know what the future holds for my son. I don't know what his adult life is going to be like, but I got to be around, because nobody's going to love my baby like I love my baby. And I got to be there for him. So I don't got time to lay in the bed all the time. And some days I do succumb to that, and I do lay in the bed. And on those days that I just can't see my way out of it, I give myself permission to be that way. And, you know, I set my kids up, you know, they understand that, you know, mommy's just, you know, laying down for a little second and she'll be right up. But, you know, for the most part, I got to get up, because I got to be there for my baby boy. I got to protect him. I got to fight for him. I got to be his voice, you know, for as long as I can. And I got to instill things that matter in him, and, you know, instill survival and XYZ, because I'm not always going to be here, but I want him to be okay. That's my life so far. A day for him is getting dropped off at school and going to different extracurricular activities that I have him in, and coming home and reading. We have a very normal, simple life. Once a week, his therapist will come in to his school and speak with him. Once a month, we have like a family therapy session where I voice my concerns. But, you know, day to day, sometimes it's hard, because it's certain concepts that I wish he understood. You know, sometimes I forget, you know, that he doesn't understand it, and I have to, you know, bring it back in and bring myself down and talk to myself and be like, hey, you know, he doesn't get it. I have to try a different approach, a different way of being. I think that is hard a lot of times for other people, because when your child has autism and they're high functioning, they don't look, you know, autistic. They don't look handicapped or mentally disabled or anything. So people think that they're just, you know, like any other child. And so when their behavior doesn't match other children's behavior, then people get upset or they take it personal. They think that, you know, he doesn't like them, or he's being mean, or you know, he's strange, or, you know. So that's, for me, the hardest part, is worrying about how the world is going to receive him and how people are going to treat him. And, you know, the idea of normalizing was a hope that I had before, and I still have that, you know, that little twinge of hope that he will normalize. But I've accepted his diagnosis, and even if he never does, you know, that's my son, and that's just what it's going to be. The future is very scary because I don't know what high functioning looks like at 25, 20, 30, 35, 40. But I'll be here, you know, until the wheels fall off. I'll be here if he has to live with me forever. You know, that's just what it'll be. But that's the scariest part, is dealing with people and their kids who say rude shit and you want to punch them in the face. Autism is a very complicated, diverse, intense thing. You can have Asperger's and, you know, appear to just be like a regular person, you know, with just some social hiccups going on, or you could be someone who's nonverbal, who can't talk. You know, you can be on this end of the spectrum or that end. But I feel like it's not enough people who have it that we know of, because I won't say they don't talk about it. I'm pretty sure people talk about it, but it's not enough, you know, famous or, you know, people of influence that talk about it, to where we have like just so much information. You know, I learn most from day to day and from Google. You know, I don't know anybody else whose kids are autistic, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it because they're embarrassed. I get it. I've been there. I've been ashamed. I've been embarrassed. But you have to come out of that for your child, for them to get the help they need. So, you know, hopefully in the future we have more information. We know more of what happens and what's going to happen. I just wanted to share that with you guys. I hope that I was able to help somebody to either, you know, make a decision that, you know, if you're seeing certain signs within your child, you know, maybe to get them looked at, or just, you know, a virtual hug from one mom to the other mom, because it gets easier every day. You learn to manage and deal with it more. Your child is no less than any other child. They're just different. Thank you guys so much for watching, and comment, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Thank you guys.